Right in my kneecap.
Oh, is it?
That hurt?
That's what just all the pain and suffering you guys bring. Have you ever hit Willie?
Yeah. Baseball.
Let's not do that, okay? Bro, she struck you out. Well, there really is no substitute for a good dog, and we've got a good dog at the moment. As much as we love Ruby and Bandit, Willie is the whole package. And he's a fun dog to have around. But at the moment, I have my very first antler sheds that ever fell here at Red Poppy Ranch, and I finally came up with a place to put them that should be pretty cool. So over the last year and a half, Cedar and I decided to become fallow deer farmers, and we've learned a lot so far, but one of those things along the way that we did pick up is nutrition is clearly a factor when it comes to antler size. So I'd like you to pay attention to these antlers, and these antlers are the byproduct of the nutrition that was received before we brought them up here to Red Poppy Ranch. We have now fed the deer all winter, and the new antler growth from this year is the byproduct of the nutrition that our fallow deer bucks received here at Red Poppy Ranch, and I'd like you to notice the different size between these antlers here and the antlers that our buck is currently carrying around on his head. They've got to be at least 20% bigger this year, and that's not normal for a 7-year-old buck. Well, this is what our herd buck looks like right now, and as you can see, he's clearly much bigger and much wider than he was last year. My lovely wife, Cedar, has been waiting 5 years for me to finish the siding, and I think it's finally time. When I first installed the Cape Cod Gray Mesmer's stain on the front of our house after finishing all the board and batten siding, I realized I must have done something wrong, and I basically stopped. And that was 5 years ago. Cedar has waited long enough, and it's time to get things finished up. Cedar took Bandit and Ruby on her morning walk like she usually does, and they decided to run off this morning. So they just got home, and they're both a little worn out. I've been telling my wife for 5 years that I'm going to get the stain finished, but I've also been telling her that I would build the flower boxes and awnings for the windows that she's been asking for. So I'm going to do all that with some leftover scrap lumber and see how far I can get. So this is all wood that was left over from the teardown on the side of the shop where we now stack all the hay that we're going to feed the deer through winter with. And this is what my German Shorthair Ruby does when she wants to tell me it's time to take a ride on the side-by-side. Ruby! Where you at? So this rustic window awning that I'm about to build simply needs to look good. It doesn't have any other purpose than that. I was trying to make this work with the 10-foot pieces of 2x6 that I had, and it's not structural. This is just look pretty. That's all this is, and I love it. I actually love the way it looks, but it needs to hang over the edges of the window. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it down, cut the ends off, and I'm gonna have to make a piece on the end that I can scab in. I don't like it. I wish I had a 12-foot 2x6, but I don't want to waste money when I have lots of materials to use. So I'm going to pull this thing down real quick and make some adjustments and get it back up. So both of these windows on the first story and all of the windows on the second story are going to get a rustic window awning over the top of it. And again, this is basically for looks and nothing else, but I want to make sure that the look is right.
But it's their eggs.
How many did you get?
7. They think I'm feeding them though. I left them a bunch of scraps over there, but they don't know it.
They keep following you. What's the body count now?
What, 38? 38 hens and 1 rooster.
And we're getting 7 a day?
7 eggs.
They union workers or what? That rooster looks like he's seen better days. He's looking a little haggard.
38 ladies.
I think the ratio's typically about 12 to 1, right? He's not complaining, but anyway. My wife, Cedar, loves a reason to celebrate, and she's been doing things like this for our kids long before the YouTube channel showed up. I've spent many hours thinking about that board and batten siding, these flower boxes, and these awnings, and how it's all going to come together. And today's the day that I'm going to find out. And if I do my job right, these flower boxes should be pretty simple. The way that I grew up in my childhood has clearly created some sort of a complex in me about being an individual. I don't like being compared to anybody but me, and I like to create things that nobody but me has. And that's part of the reason I want our house to look the way that it does. Because of this complex that I have, I clearly want my house to look a very unique way, and I think we're getting there. Cedar and I figured out that we've used 70 pounds of sugar this summer to keep our hummingbirds happy. So far I've spent virtually nothing to build the flower boxes and the awnings on the front of the house, and I used the rough sawn Doug fir siding that I like so much, but because I'm sanding it, I'm getting rid of the oxidation, and the color of the wood is clearly changing. So even though all of the board and batten siding on our house is Doug fir, we have a whole lot of different colors to go with the age of the wood. So this is where you can clearly see the most that the siding got darker as I used it and I wasn't mixing it properly. So once I get the new awning installed, I then get to strip all the old stain off the wood before we can do it again. The front of our house clearly needed something, and now that I copied the first floor awning on the second floor, I think that's exactly what we needed. Again, I have virtually nothing but time tied up in this, and I'm going to use some leftover corrugated tin to really tie things together. The plan is to set up my scaffolding to do all of the stain removing and reapplying, but clearly there's no reason to use scaffolding when I can go up the ladder over and over and over again. Now that I've got the flower boxes and these two awnings figured out, the next step is to put a little bit of roofing on them, and then I'm going to devote myself to getting all of the batten strips on the second story precision lined so they're not going to drive me crazy, because at the moment there are a few of them that need to be adjusted and or moved around. So the first part of next week, I'm going to get the batten strips adjusted, and then we're going to start the stripping process, and then hopefully by the end of the week we're on to the stain. I would end up having to buy some tar paper and some drip edge, so I would collectively be in this job about $31 and a couple days worth of work. Well, this is my favorite type of corrugated tin, and I took it off an old mink shed a few years back, and it's going to look great on these new awnings. Well, this is the look that I was hoping I would accomplish, and I can't wait to see how the stain is going to bring everything together right here in the front. So now that the hard part is done, I'm going to adjust the batten strips a little bit, and then we're going to start with the stripping of the stain. And then I'm going to reapply all this new stain and hopefully do it in a way where the front of the house right here becomes the example for the rest of the house. Because we're not going to move on from the front of the house until we are both completely satisfied with the way it looks. So on next week's video, the staining should be interesting. Well, I love how it turned out. It's exactly what the front of our house needed. Now the trick is going to be getting the stain removed. I'm going to adjust any of the batten strips that I don't like. There's a few of them that I want to move around a little bit. So I'm going to turn the camera off and get all the batten strips where I want. But then next week is going to be all about getting it stripped and getting the new stain applied. And hopefully we like the new color. So I think now we're back to natural stain as far as the stain that Cedar and I agree on. So thank you guys for checking in on us, and we'll see you in a week.